What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants signed a wide receiver today, a player who might have some fans excited, or maybe had you way more excited if they signed him 5 years ago when he was still in the peak of his playing years. Allen Robinson, formerly a Pro Bowler with the Jacksonville Jaguars, played with the Bears for a while, the Rams for a little bit, and most recently with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is now in his 30s, and he is now a member of the New York Giants. And we kind of want to discuss what this signing means for the team, if it means much at all, and really just discuss the Giants wide receiver core because they got a lot of names in there now. You know, Allen Robinson joins this group alongside, of course, Malik Neighbors, who we've talked about plenty, but you still got guys like Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, and some others, even if you want to go down the list, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Isaiah McKenzie. There's a lot of names to discuss in this wide receiver core, so we kind of just want to do an overview on it and react to the Allen Robinson signing. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch... Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your reaction to the Allen Robinson signing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. And I was actually kind of surprised online about how many people were like totally pissed off by this signing. It was kind of like I expected people to be like, oh, Allen Robinson, fine player, has a lot of experience, a decade's worth, in fact, and, did play some last year at like 250 receiving yards. Guys, this is not a big-time signing. This is supposed to be an experienced depth piece. Instead of going in the direction of an undrafted free agent or a late-round draft pick to kind of fill your depth needs, I would much rather go with a vet minimum for a guy who has 10 years of experience and can still contribute, still win reps, still make an impact if called upon. Now, best case scenario, you never have to call upon Allen Robinson, but it's never a bad idea to have a player like this stashed, waiting in the wings in case of emergencies. How many times have we had receivers go down and we desperately needed support and we had nobody to call him? We were just calling up David Sills from the practice squad praying he was going to catch something. Like, we can't go down this path anymore. We have to have experienced depth. We have to have guys that have a lot of production in the NFL. And yes, Allen Robinson, 31 years old, he's headed toward the end of his prime, but it's a vet minimum contract, guys. Like, is there really anything to be that upset about? He's not even going to sniff the field. In fact, he's going to compete for a roster spot. There's no guarantee he even makes the team. The fact that people are upset about this is kind of bewildering to me. Malik Neighbors is our WR1. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and Darius Slayton. Those are your 5 guys. Now you think about Isaiah Hodgins. Like, he's your 6th guy now. Like, he's not even going to be like on this starting team anymore. He's going to be the first reserve. Allen Robinson is your 7th wide receiver in this instance. Let him compete with guys like Bryce Ford-Wheaton coming off a injury. Let him compete with some of these guys behind the scenes. Special teams value. Obviously, if you're a wide receiver 7, you kind of want them to have an impact maybe on being as a punter, a gunner on the punt team, whatever it might be. So I kind of feel as though even a return man, I know I'll be like Tyrone Tracy for that job now, but Anthony, do you think there's a reason why people have been so upset about Allen Robinson? I don't get it. I think he's a fine depth piece. Let him compete. Let him beat out whoever is going to be competing with him, whether it be a guy like Bryce Ford-Wheaton. In best case scenario, Ford-Wheaton comes back from the ACL tear, showcases his vintage speed, and, bounces back and offers us a lot of upside. The Giants want to expand on that. I just don't see why people wouldn't want a guy like Allen Robinson. 10 years of experience, played on multiple systems, multiple schemes, multiple coaches. He brings a lot of value to this team, whether it be just his knowledge of the game, but also just, being a decent receiver. Again, he's not that good anymore, but he's better than the undrafted guys you're going to pick off the scrap pot and plug into a starting job as a worst case scenario. I think this is a fine acquisition at a minimum signing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there were people upset about it. I just think that there are some fans who are maybe a little overjoyed by it, considering where Allen Robinson is in his career at 30 years old with a bunch of injuries in his background, and coming off of a season where he only caught 34 balls for 280 yards and 0 touchdowns with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not really an effective player anymore. He's not a player that you should expect to see on the field for the New York Giants unless they have injuries, and that's why I do like this signing, and I think that there is some value to it. When you're in this portion of the offseason and you're moving into now the OTAs, the workouts, and eventually training camp, it's good to have as many bodies in there that you think might help you down the road as possible. It's similar. Essentially, Alex, to me, this is the same thing as when the Giants signed Cole Beasley last year. Cole Beasley was essentially there to learn the playbook, get familiar with the team, be a locker room leader, and be on standby in case the New York Giants have any injuries during the regular season and they need to call a familiar face to come help them. Now Allen Robinson is that familiar face for the Giants. If they have any injuries during the regular season, they'll call up Allen Robinson and say, hey, remember when you were here in the summer and you were training with us? How about you come give us some meaningful snaps on the football field? We would really like that since you're already familiar with the team and our personnel. That's essentially what I think Allen Robinson is. I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think that there are other players that will make it in front of him. The Giants already have 4 starting receivers with Neighbors, Slayton, Wandale, and Jalen Hyatt. So behind them, they're only going to hold up to probably 6 wide receivers, maybe a 7th if you want to include Gunnar Olszewski, but they don't even have him listed as a wide receiver on their depth chart. They only have him listed as a special teamer. So who's wide receiver 5 and 6? I think Isaiah Hodgins is probably number 5, and then number 6 might be up for grabs. Maybe Allen Robinson can be the 6th receiver on this team. But I think there's a good chance that Bryce Ford Wheaton becomes wide receiver 6, or even Isaiah McKenzie, or they consider Gunnar Olszewski to already be WR6, and therefore no room for Allen Robinson. But again, it's important to have these guys available for you during the regular season with familiarity, so that if you have any injuries, you can bring them on. And to me, the most value that Allen Robinson is bringing to this team is leadership and mentorship. We just drafted a wide receiver, a prolific player with the number 6 overall pick in the draft to play wide receiver at the NFL level, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors can learn a lot through his relationship with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson being a guy who early in his career, really quick boom to stardom, 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns in his second season in the NFL, was a Pro Bowler that year. He's been near the top of the food chain for wide receivers in the NFL, and I do think that it's valuable for a guy like Malik Neighbors to have conversations with him and get familiar with him and learn how to handle stardom and how to be a good player. What did he do right? What did he do wrong that made his career kind of tumble towards the second half? So I think that's the value in this Allen Robinson signing throughout the summer while they're training and they're working Malik Neighbors and practicing with him. Robinson can just kind of be a mentor figure for him in a few ways. And I think that's something that you can be kind of happy about with this signing. But again, temper expectations. Probably won't see him on the football field for the Giants this season. If you do, it's because some injuries took place, and that's going to be really unfortunate. But Alex, who are some of these other guys on the wide receiver room? You know, we talked about Robinson now and why he may or may not make the team and what value he could bring. But how about some of these other guys that might make the job over him? You know, like Bryce Ford Wheaton, Isaiah McKenzie, Isaiah Hodgins. What is this back end of this receiving room looking like to you, and who do you think stands out?
I mean, Isaiah McKenzie, really, I just don't see it anymore with him simply because he kind of has like Cole Beasley kind of factor to me. The Giants bring him in because he's a former Buffalo Bill and they want to give him a chance to compete, and he's kind of past his prime, never was really that good. He was much worse than Cole Beasley long-term, you know, kind of big picture there. So McKenzie is going to have to earn his value on special teams. I don't see how he makes this team personally. I mean, I hope the best for him. Maybe he surprises us all and makes his team, but pretty sure last year he didn't really play much at all, if at all. So, you know, looking at Bryce Ford Wheaton, that's a guy a lot of people are excited about. You know, lots of speed, lots of athleticism. You know, he made a really nice impact during camp, you know, during his rookie season. I would like to see what he can do. I think Allen Robinson, that'll be the guy he directly competes with. They're probably going to carry 6 or 7 receivers. So, you know, we could use a little bit more some slot action. After Wandale Robinson, our slot receivers are not really that strong. I don't even know if we really have any. I mean, you can move Malik Neighbors inside, but you want to have him primarily on the boundary. The Giants will probably utilize him all across the scheme, to be quite honest with you. Darren Waller could be your de facto slot option, but he probably is going to retire. So, you know, what kind of happens here if Wandale goes down? You know, who is available? Isaiah McKenzie is kind of a slot option that you would look to, so maybe he does find his way into the roster because of that variable. Bryce Ford Wheaton's a guy that I could see kind of helping in the slot a little bit. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker, faster. I would like to see him expand his role as a route runner in that regard. So, you know, I do think that this wide receiver room is the best that we've had probably since OBJ, definitely since OBJ was on this team. And for what it's worth, like behind OBJ, they really didn't have much. You know, we're talking about nothing after OBJ. Now, you have some talent here, guys. Like Darius Slayton's a decent player. Jalen Hyatt is going to be a threat in some ways. Wandale is a good player. Malik Neighbors is a blue chip prospect. There's a lot of talent on this roster. There is no excuse anymore for this offense not to be good. This is not a Daniel Jones thing. It's a scheme thing. It's an offensive line thing. It's a multiple catalysts that equate to a functioning offense. With that being said, the Giants need to be a little bit more proactive in getting creative with their system. I do believe that they have the talent and the versatility and the creativity. They should be able to scheme up ways to get these players open. If the offensive line is average, that's all I'm asking, average, we're going to see this offense take a big step forward because they're going to be able to open up the playbook. Last year, the playbook was closed. It was half closed. We couldn't run the deep concepts. We couldn't run any route concepts that took more than 2 seconds to develop. The Giants, if they can have at least a little bit of time, these receivers should be open. And now then it becomes Daniel Jones to actually complete the passes, put the ball where it needs to be, and we'll see if he can actually accomplish that. But Anthony, how do you think the talent, the different kind of skill sets that we have on this roster, how do you think that they balance each other? How do you think that the Giants can work with these different skill sets, whether it be Wandale in the slot, Malik Neighbors' speed, Slayton and Hyatt's deep threats? Do you think this team should be a lot more creative and a lot more versatile in the way that they kind of dispose, or rather showcase their receiving options this upcoming season?
I mean, it definitely should be. We'll see if it pans out. Of course, we had expectations that didn't really get met for the Giants receiving room last year, but when you're looking at the different skill sets, you do have an every level threat now with Malik Neighbors, which is what the New York Giants really needed. A guy who can get open underneath, intermediate, and deep. He does that. He does a lot of his dirty work deep, though. Malik Neighbors is an absolute elite deep threat, or at least he was at LSU and probably will be entering the NFL. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the Giants have not only one solid deep threat in Neighbors, also Jalen Hyatt, that's 2, and Darius Slayton, also a vertical wide receiver. So there's 3. Now, I think that the weakness for the Giants will be to find the receivers that make plays in the underneath portion of the field. Like I said, Neighbors can do that, and we know that that's where Wandale Robinson does. Pretty much all of his damage is underneath. Drag routes, quick slants, bubble screens, all that fun stuff. That's what Wandale Robinson is really good at. But outside of him, they are a little thin on underneath slot receivers, which is funny, Alex, because in the past, we've talked about how this team just stacked up on slot receivers, like everybody was a slot receiver. Now I don't really know who the slot receiver is outside of Wandale. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is going to play a lot in the slot, but they're going to move him all over the place based on the matchups and the defense and what routes they want him to run. But as a primary underneath option, it's pretty much Wandale Robinson and then the tight ends. There's not a whole lot of depth in that slot receiver room now, which is, again, shocking to say considering where we were last year. I guess Isaiah McKenzie could potentially be that guy, but I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think that he's going to make the roster, so the Giants need Wandale to stay healthy, is basically the point that I'm trying to make. Wandale plays a very important role to this team, and a very specific role that these other guys, Slayton, Neighbors, we don't want them playing that role. Hyatt as well, we don't want them playing Wandale Robinson's role. So Wandale Robinson, again, a guy who tore his ACL in 2022, is a bit smaller, needs to protect his body, needs to stay healthy in 2024. Had a great 2023 campaign, did stay healthy, made a lot of plays underneath, a lot of yards after the catch, all that stuff. He's going to continue to do that if he stays healthy. But again, just because of the thin depth at that specific position in the Giants receiver room, Wandale Robinson is quickly becoming one of their most important pieces on offense, and as such, they need him to remain healthy and continue to play at a high level next season. But if I had to project what this offense is going to look like, I think your X receiver is going to be maybe Darius Slayton, to be completely honest. I wanted to say Malik Neighbors there, but Malik Neighbors probably to start out his career, you're going to want him not on the line of scrimmage, but a little bit off. Let him use his burst and get acclimated to the NFL level. He didn't face a ton of press coverage in the SEC, so in terms of the skill set, I think your X receiver is going to be that vertical deep threat in Darius Slayton, and then your Z, your backside player, that's going to be Malik Neighbors, getting open every single down, just running every route in the route tree because he can do it all. And then in the slot, you are going to have, of course, Wandale Robinson, and rotating in on the outside, I think that's where you see Jalen Hyatt running those deep routes. And again, a very solid blend of skill sets there. A lot of vertical receivers, but bringing in Malik Neighbors who can run a 20-yard in route, a 15-yard out route, a guy who can get open consistently on plays like that against man coverage, changes the landscape of this offense and of this passing attack. So Malik Neighbors really is the key here. But outside of that, They are a little bit thin on some depth pieces. I think that Slayton and Hyatt complement each other well, so if one of those guys gets hurt, you could expect the other one to step up. But behind Wan'Dale Robinson is a little bit of my concern. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? The fact that the Giants used to have a ton of slot receivers. They used to have too many. Cole Beasley couldn't even make the team last year because they had so many slot receivers. But now Wan'Dale Robinson is their primary slot guy. Again, Neighbors will rotate in there, but we want him on the outside. Who's behind Wan'Dale Robinson if, God forbid, Wan'Dale gets hurt, or, you just got to rotate him out of the lineup? Who's playing the slot receiver position for the Giants, or do you think they're going to add somebody else?
It's a good question. I mean, right now they don't really have anyone that's going to be that smaller, faster guy. Maybe Bryce Ford Wheaton competes there, but I don't see him being like that primary backup just yet, coming off an ACL tear. I need to see a lot more, obviously. Maybe they go jumbo and then stick Theo Johnson in there and say, hey, buddy, like, we're going to do something totally unique with you, put you in the slot and see what happens. Obviously, Darren Waller could have played that role if he doesn't retire. Obviously, that's still up in the air right now. But hey, the Giants, if Waller retires, they have $7 million to spend. Maybe someone gets cut. Maybe there's someone still available. Maybe they go look for another option. I mean, I don't really know who is actually still available right now in terms of receivers, but I can check right now. So if we're looking at receivers and smaller guys too, there's not that many players left, I don't think. Let's see. Hunter Renfrow still available. Obviously Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas. Obviously he is kind of a slot slant master, but always injured, so wouldn't want to go down that direction. Randall Cobb, 34 years old, who's a fossil. Sterling Shepard's 31. Honestly, give me Richie James as depth. Bring back Richie James as depth. I don't love Richie James. He drops a lot of passes, but the guy just creates separation. He was pretty good last year for the Kansas City Chiefs when they called on him. I'm just kidding. No way, Kadarius Toney. Then they decline his 5th-year option. He's so cooked. God, absolutely horrible for him. Sterling Shepard, do you bring him back on a veteran minimum deal? Probably not. I don't know. There's guys here, but I don't see the Giants biting on any of them. Obviously, they brought in Allen Robinson on the minimum contract at 31 years old this upcoming season. So I just don't really know where they would go. But do any of those guys stand out to you, like Randall Cobb, bringing back Sterling Shepard, Richie James, Byron Pringle? See if anyone else is here. Alex Bachman, he's had some okay moments. Hunter Renfrow, or Michael Thomas, anyone that stands out to you?
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's pretty thin out there. There's not a whole lot of options. Listen, I think that the New York Giants receiving room where they're at right now is probably just what they're going to have. And if you look through the depth chart again, the guys that we mentioned, those are the guys we're going to see on the field. But like I said, it's just very important for Wan'Dale Robinson to stay healthy just because of the role that he plays and the position that he plays. If for whatever reason Wan'Dale Robinson is out of the lineup, I think things shift like this. You take Malik Neighbors, and now you're playing him primarily in the slot, which again isn't ideal. You want to have the option to move him in and out, but you move him primarily into the slot, and then I think that becomes Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt on the outside for you. And we'll see how Hyatt performs this upcoming season. He has a lot of work to do expanding his route tree and becoming a more complete receiver, but right now, I like the prospects of him as a deep threat, and I'm hoping that he can take that step forward in 2024. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this offensive lineup shapes out, and obviously the question mark, and I'm sure there's already, we're not even posted this yet, we're only recording it right now, I'm sure there's already comments from people saying who's throwing them the football. It's not really the important question to ask in this episode, in my opinion, although it is something that looms large. What's going on at the quarterback position? Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito should be able to get the ball to Malik Neighbors or Drew Lock. It doesn't matter who. Malik Neighbors should get the football. Well, if Malik Neighbors doesn't go for 1,000 receiving yards this season, Alex, something went drastically wrong, and it's probably a result of him getting injured. It has nothing to do with the quarterback position. The guy is so good. He's always going to be open. He's just a very talented receiver. It's idiot proof. If you can't get this guy 1,000 receiving yards, I don't know what went wrong. So I'm excited about this receiving core, Alex. I think this is an underrated unit. I've seen people online kind of react to the Giants' arsenal of weapons and say that it's mid or there's only one good player there in Malik Neighbors. I totally disagree. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a very good player capable of putting up 500 receiving yards a season, which is very good. I think that Darius Slayton has proven to be a 700-plus yard receiver pretty much every year, so I have no reason to believe that he won't continue to do that. And then in that 500-yard ballpark range in year 2, I see Jalen Hyatt and probably scoring some touchdowns this season on some deep balls. So I think that this is a good offensive lineup in the receiving core. Yeah, there's a lot of room to improve at QB, at offensive line, tight end maybe, but in terms of the receivers, this is probably the Giants' strongest unit on the team, I would say. And they have the most depth here. Again, a little tricky because maybe they don't have depth at slot, but they have depth outside, whatever. But just top to bottom, if you want to compare the wide receiver room to any of the other units that the Giants have, I think their wide receiver core is their best unit, and I am excited about it. I think that there are some serious playmakers here. I've always said that I'm way higher on Darius Slayton than most people. You've always been way higher on Wan'Dale Robinson than most people. We see some talent here, and obviously I'm high on Malik Neighbors, and I think everybody is. So I think there's a solid trio of receivers here, a solid quadro, because I like Jalen Hyatt as well, and I'm excited to see how they perform this year. Just hopefully they can get the ball and hopefully they can make some plays. But are you kind of feeling the same way as me? This is a little bit of an underrated receiver core.
I mean, the second you add Malik Neighbors to it, it becomes very underrated because nobody really knows what he's going to be. Nobody really knows what his production is going to look like. But he is the best thing we've had since OBJ, and it's not even close, right? This guy is special. He's a special 20-year-old talent. So I really am excited to see how he impacts this receiver room. But because he's an unknown, because, you know, he has no production in the NFL, he's not DeAndre Hopkins, he's not Mike Evans, he's not one of those big names, it's very underrated because people just don't know. People overlook this unit. But the Giants have enough weapons and enough talent to be productive through the passing game this year. And now we're going to see if they can actually execute. So, yeah, I do agree with you. Very underrated unit. Lots of talent. Now it's about scheming them open, getting the football to them, and helping them operate in space.
We're in agreement there, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun offseason. The Giants start their rookie minicamp, I believe, tomorrow, so we're going to get our first looks at Malik Neighbors suited up in some Giants outfit and doing some practice. It's going to be fun, and of course, we're going to discuss that tomorrow. We'll keep you guys updated on that and everything surrounding the New York Giants, all rumors, news, speculation, reports, and content right here on Fireside Giants. So, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.